You are still treating your living room rug like a crime scene every time you try to touch your toes. And yet, you wonder why your left knee feels like a bag of dry ice by mile 4. Sit down. Take off those overpriced carbon-plated shoes you bought to compensate for a lack of lactate threshold, and stop scrolling through Strava looking for validation from strangers who sleep 8 hours a night while you survive on cold brew and denial. We need to talk about why your strength training routine is an absolute joke. And no, wrapping a mini band around your thighs while scrolling through reels on your phone does not count as being an athlete. You bought into the fitness industry lie that running is just falling forward repeatedly with style, ignoring the fact that every single time your foot strikes the asphalt, you are absorbing roughly 3 times your body weight through a structure roughly the size of a matchstick. If you weigh 160 pounds, that is 480 pounds of sheer physics crashing into your tibia with every single step, and your current routine of 3 sets of pathetic bodyweight lunges is about as effective as bringing a squirt gun to a forest fire. Did you know that a landmark study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research demonstrated that distance runners who incorporated heavy strength training improved their running economy by up to 8% without increasing their maximal oxygen uptake simply by improving the stiffness of their musculotendinous system? Let that sink in for a second, because 8% is the difference between crossing the finish line with a personal record and bending over double in front of the finisher photo tent, questioning every life choice that brought you to this moment. You think you are tired because you need another gel or a fancy recovery boot, but the brutal truth is that your nervous system is shutting down because your connective tissue is as weak as wet cardboard, forcing your stride to collapse inward like a cheap camping chair under heavy rain. How many miles did you log last week just to end up with the exact same nagging hip impingement you had back in October? Exactly. So let us drop the delusion that stretching your hamstrings while watching television is going to fix a force production deficit, because flexibility without structural integrity is just making a broken machine more flexible. When you actually look at how the human body generates forward propulsion, it is not a gentle glide. It is a series of violent microscopic explosions managed entirely by the eccentric loading of your glutes and calves. Every time you strike the ground, your muscles have to act like sophisticated brake pads, absorbing kinetic energy and instantly redirecting it forward, which requires a level of muscular stiffness that modern life has completely engineered out of our bodies. We sit at desks for 10 hours a day, flattening our glutes into pancakes, and then we expect to head out for a 12-miler and perform like elite Kenyan marathoners without paying a heavy toll in orthopedic damage. What if the reason you keep hitting a wall at mile 16 isn't because of your fueling strategy, but because your gluteus medius completely shuts off after 40 minutes of running due to sheer neuromuscular fatigue? Think about that the next time you feel your lower back start to tighten up while your stride turns into an uncoordinated shuffle that looks less like running and more like a slow-motion panic attack. To fix this, you do not need a gym membership with a monthly fee that costs more than your grocery bill. And you certainly do not need to spend 2 hours doing Bosu ball circus tricks that belong in a rehabilitation clinic rather than a performance routine. You need heavy, deliberate, unsexy movements that force your central nervous system to recruit high-threshold motor units, starting with the heavy Bulgarian split squat, using whatever heavy objects you have lying around your living room. When you lower your back knee toward the floor under control, you are not just burning your quads, you are teaching your pelvis how to stay level while under a brutal rotational load identical to the demands of running. And before you tell me you do not have time for this, remember that a study from the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports showed that just 2 heavy lower body resistance sessions per week, lasting a mere 20 minutes each, were enough to produce massive gains in running performance in trained endurance athletes. 20 minutes. That is less time than you spend scrolling through gear reviews trying to find a running watch that will somehow fix your cadence for you. But you keep avoiding the iron room because it hurts your ego to realize you can barely squat your own body weight without shaking like a newborn calf, preferring instead to go out and suffer through another junk mile tempo run that leaves you sore, broken, and no faster than you were last year. Why do we treat strength training as an optional accessory for runners, as if building a bulletproof chassis is somehow secondary to accumulating more miles on a damaged engine? It is absolute madness, yet we keep repeating the cycle because misery feels productive, even when it is entirely directionless and completely devoid of physiological logic. What happens when you finally realize that the secret to running faster isn't running more, but rather tolerating more force without falling apart at the seams? That moment of clarity should sting a little bit, because it means all those early morning track sessions where you puked behind the bleachers were essentially wasted, because your foundation was built on toothpicks and optimism. You need to stop treating your body like a fragile antique that will break if you touch a barbell, and start treating it like a high-performance engine that requires structural reinforcement to handle the horsepower you are trying to demand from it. Try doing heavy heel drops off the edge of your staircase with a backpack loaded with books, lowering yourself slowly over 4 seconds and exploding upward, and watch what happens to your Achilles tendon resilience within 3 weeks of consistent torture. It is going to burn, your calves are going to cramp, and you are going to hate every second of it. But that is the exact sensation of weakness leaving your body while your physiology adapts to actual stress. We are just getting started on dismantling the terrible habits that are keeping you stuck in a perpetual loop of mediocre race times and endless injury cycles. Because what is coming next week is going to turn everything you thought you knew about fatigue completely upside down. In our next episode, we are exposing the hidden biological mechanism that makes a select group of elite runners look effortless and nearly tireless, even in the final miles of a marathon, a factor involving mitochondrial density and nervous system efficiency that nobody in the mainstream running community is talking about yet. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss a single second. Drop a like if this conversation finally woke you up. Comment down below with the city or country you are watching from. Share this video with that one running friend who desperately needs a reality check. And if you want to support this channel directly and get access to exclusive unedited training breakdowns, click the membership link pinned in the comments below.